The ship appeared in Earth's sky without warning. Massive and gleaming, it hovered above the United Nations building in New York, silent but impossible to miss. Across the world, billions watched their screens in shock and fear as the first undeniable proof of alien life made itself known. Within hours, the visitors had identified themselves as representatives of the Galactic Council, a coalition of space-faring species that govern most of the known universe. They requested a meeting with Earth's leaders, promising peaceful intentions and the opportunity for humanity to join a greater community among the stars. After hasty deliberations, the UN Security Council selected Ambassador Daniel Grant to represent humanity's diplomatic interests. He was joined by Dr. Lisa Martinez, Earth's leading xenobiologist and linguistics expert. Both were chosen for their calm demeanor and quick thinking, qualities that would be essential when facing an unknown alien civilization. "I still can't believe this is happening," Lisa whispered as they were escorted to the meeting chamber installed within the alien vessel. "Everything I've worked for my entire life, and now." Daniel nodded, tugging at his collar nervously. "Just remember the protocol. We represent all of humanity now." The council representatives were a diverse group, some vaguely humanoid, others utterly alien in form. Their leader introduced himself as High Counselor Xurax, a tall being with iridescent skin and 4 arms who spoke through a translation device. "We welcome Earth to the galactic community," Xurax announced, his voice eerily smooth. "Your species has been observed for some time, and we feel you are ready for limited contact." The initial meetings seemed promising. The council offered technological insights, cultural exchange, and protection from what they called less civilized species. Daniel negotiated carefully, aware of the power imbalance, but determined to secure fair treatment for Earth. What neither Daniel nor Lisa knew was that the council's chambers contained hidden recording devices that activated when humans weren't present. After the 3rd day of negotiations, as Earth's representatives departed, the council members revealed their true thoughts. "These humans are more primitive than we expected," Xurax said, his translator now turned off as he spoke to his fellow council members. "Their technology is centuries behind even the least advanced council races." Another council member, a gelatinous creature named Forn, pulsed with what passed for laughter in his species. "Did you see how excited they became at our basic atmospheric converters? Like children with toys." "The containment plan proceeds as scheduled," Xurax continued. "Earth will be classified as a protected zone, essentially a wildlife preserve. We'll tell them it's for their own safety, of course." "What about their resources?" asked a 3rd council member, this one insectoid with compound eyes that reflected the chamber's light. "Preliminary scans show significant deposits of rare minerals and biological diversity. We harvest what we need," Xurax said dismissively. "The humans won't even notice if we're careful. Their detection systems are laughably inadequate." Unknown to the council, not all of their technology was as secure as they believed. A maintenance worker named Joe Miller had been installing new security cameras in the UN building when the alien ship arrived. Curious and technically skilled, he had managed to jury-rig a receiver that picked up some of the council's internal communications. Joe's hands trembled as he reviewed the footage he captured. The council wasn't offering partnership. They were planning to turn Earth into a glorified zoo while stealing its resources. Their benevolent act was just that, an act. He immediately contacted his supervisor, who contacted government security, who eventually brought the information to National Security Advisor Richard Cooper. Within hours, the president and key allies were privately shown the disturbing footage. "So much for peaceful first contact," the president muttered, his face grim. "They see us as animals to be contained and exploited. What do we do now?" Richard asked. "If we confront them directly, we risk immediate conflict with a technologically superior force." The president looked around the room at Earth's best minds gathered in emergency session. "For now we play along," he said finally. "We smile, we negotiate, we act grateful for their protection. But meanwhile, we prepare. Earth will not become anyone's wildlife preserve or mining operation. The die was cast. Humanity's first contact with alien life would not be the celebration of unity many had dreamed of. It would be the beginning of a desperate fight for survival and dignity. 6 months after first contact, strange things began happening in the outer solar system. Earth's long-range telescopes detected unusual activity near Neptune, flashes of light that shouldn't be there. When asked, the Galactic Council representatives smiled and explained they were merely setting up monitoring stations for Earth's protection. But Captain Eric Johnson of the EDF Saturn Patrol wasn't convinced. His small ship, the Dauntless, was one of Earth's few military vessels capable of deep space operations. He had been ordered to maintain a respectful distance from Council activities, but something didn't feel right. "Take us closer, but keep our signature low," Eric told his navigator, Sam Wilson. "I want to see what they're actually doing out there." Using the rings of Saturn as cover, the Dauntless crept closer to a massive Council vessel. What they saw shocked them. It wasn't a monitoring station at all. The alien ship had extended huge mechanical arms that were extracting ice and minerals from Neptune's smaller moons. "They're mining our system without permission," whispered Linda Powell, the ship's science officer. "This violates the very agreement they made with us." Before they could retreat and report their findings, 3 smaller Council ships surrounded the Dauntless. "Earth vessel," came the transmission. "You have entered a restricted zone. You will be escorted to our central processing station for questioning." Across the solar system, similar scenes played out. The 5 ships of Earth's Jupiter Defense Force were detained for safety inspections. The Mars colony suddenly found itself under medical quarantine due to alleged concerns about human pathogens. The lunar bases were restricted from launching any vessels under the pretense of orbital traffic management. Back on Earth, Ambassador Daniel Grant was becoming increasingly frustrated with the Council's evasive answers and growing restrictions. "We agreed to partnership, not subjugation," he argued during a heated meeting with High Counselor Zurax. "You can't just restrict our movements in our own solar system." "My dear Ambassador," Zurax replied with what passed for a smile, "these are merely temporary measures for your own safety. Space is dangerous for newcomers like yourselves." But Daniel noticed how Council advisors had begun appearing in major Earth governments, always offering help but somehow gaining access to critical information and infrastructure. The promised technological exchanges had slowed to a trickle, with the Council always finding reasons to withhold the most useful innovations. Meanwhile, in a secure bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, National Security Advisor Richard Cooper received Captain Johnson's encrypted report. The Dauntless had managed to escape detention by faking a reactor malfunction and was now hiding in the asteroid belt, gathering evidence. "They're not just mining," Richard explained to the Emergency Council. "Johnson's team has intercepted communications indicating a full-scale resource extraction operation. They're treating our solar system like a grocery store." "It gets worse," added Olivia Clark, the CIA's alien intelligence specialist. "We've decoded partial transmissions suggesting the Council is preparing for something they call Phase 2, which appears to involve permanent containment facilities for human populations." The President's face hardened as he studied the evidence. "They're planning an invasion, aren't they?" "Yes, sir," Olivia confirmed. "But they don't call it that. They call it protective custody, essentially turning Earth into a giant reservation while they take everything of value from our system. And we have almost nothing that can stand against their technology," added General Frank Rivera, Joint Chiefs Chairman. "A direct confrontation would be disastrous." The President stood and walked to the window, looking out at the mountains. After a long moment, he turned back to the room. "Then we don't confront them directly. Not yet. We need time, and we need advantages they don't expect. From this moment, Earth is at war, but it's a war we can't let the enemy know we're fighting until we're ready." The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. Humanity's survival would depend on its ability to prepare in secret right under the watchful eyes of their would-be conquerors. The hidden laboratories beneath Denver hummed with activity. Here, far from the Council's prying sensors, Earth's best minds worked tirelessly to understand alien technology. Dr. Susan Rodriguez wiped sweat from her brow as she studied the captured Council communication device. "Look at this," she said, pointing to microscopic components that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "Their tech isn't just advanced, it's adaptive." Her colleague, Alan Park, nodded. A quantum physicist whose theories had once been considered radical, Alan now found himself at the center of humanity's most important research team. "That's what gives me hope," he replied. "Their systems are built to adapt to known threats, but they've never encountered humans before. We think differently." Across the vast underground complex, similar breakthroughs were happening. A team led by engineer Jack Foster had reverse-engineered a Council shield generator. Military strategist William Kelly was developing combat tactics that played to human strengths rather than trying to match alien advantages. "The Council expects us to fight like them," William explained during a briefing with military leaders. "But we won't. Earth animals don't fight like galactic predators do, and neither will we." On the surface, Earth continued its charade of cooperation. Ambassador Grant attended Council functions with a smile, while secretly passing information to the Resistance. Each time the Council revealed a new technology, samples would mysteriously find their way to the underground labs. The most significant breakthrough came 3 months into their secret preparations. Alan Park stumbled upon it while examining Council faster-than-light communication devices. "Their entire network depends on quantum entanglement," he explained to the Emergency Council. "But they've built in assumptions about how the system can be accessed. They never considered someone might approach it from our perspective." "In simple terms, what does this mean?" asked the President. "It means we can listen to their conversations across the galaxy," Alan replied. "And potentially, when the time comes, disrupt their communications completely." Meanwhile, Susan Rodriguez had developed what she called adaptive defense systems, shields that could learn from Council weapons and adjust to render them ineffective after the first few hits. "The problem is manufacturing," Susan admitted. "We can build prototypes, but not enough for large-scale defense. We need more time." Time was running short. Council ships were increasingly present in Earth orbit, and more advisors arrived daily. Decoded transmissions revealed Phase 2, the complete containment of humanity, was scheduled to begin within weeks. In another part of the complex, military leaders from nations that had been enemies just months earlier worked side by side. Chinese generals collaborated with American admirals. Russian cyber warfare experts taught alongside British intelligence officers. The threat to Earth had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy could not: true global unity. "We have a window of opportunity," explained General Rivera during the final planning session. "When they begin their operation, there will be a moment of vulnerability as they transition from peacekeeping pretense to full military posture." The President looked around the room at the tired but determined faces. "And our counterattack?" "We've hidden ships and weapons throughout the solar system," replied Admiral Kelly Watson. "We've trained fighters using simulations based on Council tactics. We're as ready as we can be." "What about civilians?" asked the Vice President. "Billions will be at risk when this starts." "Underground shelters have been prepared in secret," said FEMA Director Paul Harris. "We can't save everyone from the initial attack, but we've distributed our adaptive shield technology to key locations. If the shields work as Dr. Rodriguez believes they will, we can protect major population centers after the first wave." The mood in the room was somber but resolute. Humanity stood on the brink of either its greatest triumph or its final defeat. "We didn't ask for this war," the President said quietly. "But we will not go quietly into captivity. When the Council makes their move, they'll discover that humans are not the primitive species they believe us to be." As if on cue, alarms began to sound. On screens around the room, satellite imagery showed dozens of new Council ships emerging from faster-than-light travel near Earth's orbit. "It's starting," someone whispered. The time for preparation was over. The time for Earth's vicious revenge was about to begin. The Council's attack began at dawn. Massive ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, positioning themselves above major cities. High Counselor Zirax's face appeared on screens worldwide, his expression solemn but determined. "People of Earth," he announced, "we have detected dangerous technological developments that violate our protection agreement. For your own safety, we must implement containment procedures. Please remain calm and follow the instructions of Council peacekeepers." Moments later, the ships released what they called pacification fields, energy waves that disabled electrical systems across vast areas. Cities went dark. Communications failed. Panic spread as people realized the true nature of their galactic protectors. In New York, Ambassador Daniel Grant watched in horror as Council troops began rounding up government officials. "This is the protection you promised," he shouted at the Council representative who had once smiled and offered friendship. "Your species is too violent and unpredictable to be allowed free development," the alien replied without emotion. "The Council has decided Earth will function better as a managed reserve. Those who cooperate will be treated well." Similar scenes played out worldwide. Council forces established control zones in major cities, their advanced weapons making conventional military resistance seem futile. News reports showed Earth's naval fleets disabled by strange energy pulses. Air forces were grounded by targeted electromagnetic disruptions. At Council headquarters on their command ship, celebration had already begun. "Easier than expected," Zirax commented, watching holographic displays of Earth's major defense systems going offline. "Their military capability was even more primitive than our estimates suggested. Some resistance in their Asian continent," noted a subordinate, "but nothing our second wave can't handle." "Prepare the resource extraction teams," Zirax ordered. "Once the population is properly contained, we can begin full-scale operations." What the Council didn't realize was that Earth's apparent defeat was partially orchestrated. The military assets they observed failing were largely decoys. Older equipment deliberately left vulnerable, while newer adapted weapons remained hidden. Deep within Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Karen Wilson watched the invasion unfold on hardened systems immune to Council disruption fields. Around her, Earth's unified command staff maintained grim faces as casualty reports came in. The human cost was high, but the strategic plan remained intact. "They've taken the bait," Karen announced, studying the deployment patterns of Council forces. "They're following standard containment protocols, just as our intercepted communications suggested they would. All defense forces have retreated to secondary positions," reported General Rivera. "Civilian evacuation to underground shelters is at 60% and continuing." Karen nodded and turned to the president, who had relocated to the command center days earlier. "Sir, they believe they've won. They're deploying in exactly the patterns we predicted, spreading their forces thin to cover maximum territory." "Casualties?" the president asked quietly. "Too many," Karen answered honestly. "But if we don't strike now, there won't be an Earth left to save." The president closed his eyes briefly, feeling the weight of his next words. "Admiral Wilson, you have authorization to initiate Operation Thunderbolt." Karen turned to her communications officer. "Send the signal." Throughout the solar system, hidden human forces received the encrypted message. In the asteroid belt, Captain Eric Johnson's Dauntless and 30 other ships that had been playing dead suddenly powered up their engines. On Mars, colonists emerged from hidden bunkers to seize Council quarantine facilities. On the Moon, disguised weapon platforms activated beneath the surface. And on Earth, as Council forces celebrated their easy victory, something unexpected happened. Their communication systems began to fail. Their ships lost contact with each other. The carefully coordinated invasion began to fragment into isolated units. In the Council command ship, alarms blared as systems failed one after another. "What's happening?" Zirax demanded, watching as display screens went dark. "Unknown, High Counselor," A technician replied, frantically working controls that no longer responded. Some kind of systemic failure in our network. It's as if something is attacking the quantum link itself. For the first time, Zirax felt a sensation he'd never experienced when dealing with primitive species: fear. From hidden bases across the asteroid belt, Earth's stealth fleet emerged like ghosts from the darkness. Captain Eric Johnson stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, watching as 30 ships formed up alongside his own. These vessels looked nothing like traditional human spacecraft. They had been built in secret, incorporating modified Council technology with uniquely human innovations. "All ships report ready, Captain," said Sam Wilson, his voice steady despite the enormity of what they were about to attempt. Eric nodded. "Begin Phase 1. Remember, we hit hard and fast. Don't give them time to adapt." Across the solar system, the counterattack unfolded with precision. The Council forces, certain of their easy victory over Earth, had spread themselves thin. Now they found themselves facing unexpected resistance from all directions. In Earth orbit, Council command ships suddenly lost contact with their ground forces. The quantum disruption virus created by Dr. Alan Park had been activated, spreading through their communication network like wildfire. What made it so effective was its unpredictability. It didn't attack in ways the Council's security systems recognized as threats. "It's beautiful," Alan whispered, watching data streams in the underground command center. They built their systems to recognize patterns they understand. But human randomness, they have no defense against that. On the Moon, Council forces occupying the human bases were shocked when the very floors beneath them opened up, revealing hidden compartments with armed resistance fighters. The lunar gravity gave human soldiers a surprising advantage in close combat, especially when Council troops found their advanced weapons mysteriously malfunctioning. Mars told a similar story. The supposed quarantine that had trapped human colonists turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It had given them months to study Council weaknesses and prepare countermeasures. Back on Earth, Admiral Karen Wilson directed the most crucial phase of the operation. As Council ships lost communication with each other, human forces emerged from hiding. "Deploy the shield busters," Karen ordered. Across the planet, small teams activated devices developed by Susan Rodriguez. These didn't attempt to overpower Council shields. Instead, they created fluctuating energy patterns that confused the adaptive shield generators, causing them to malfunction and collapse. "Council dropship approaching Washington sector," reported a tactical officer. Karen smiled grimly. "Let them come. Activate defense grid Theta." The Council ship, expecting minimal resistance, flew directly into a web of ground-based energy weapons. Its shields flickered and failed under the unpredictable energy pulses. Moments later, the ship crashed into the Potomac River. In space, Captain Johnson's fleet engaged the Council's orbital forces. The Dauntless moved with surprising speed for its size, evading Council targeting systems. "They're still trying to use standard tactics against us," Eric observed. "They haven't realized yet that we don't fight by their rulebook." Human ships darted between larger Council vessels, deploying what they called leech bombs, devices that attached to enemy hulls and drained their power systems. Council ships, designed to fight conventional space battles, struggled to target the smaller, more agile Earth vessels. "Captain, the flagship is vulnerable," Sam reported excitedly. "Their main shields are down." Eric didn't hesitate. "All ships, concentrate fire on their command center." On the Council flagship, High Counselor Zirax watched in disbelief as his forces faltered across the system. Reports of failures came from all directions before communications failed completely. "Impossible," he muttered. "They're primitives. How could they possibly?" His words were cut short as the ship rocked violently. Through the viewport, he saw Earth vessels appearing from what seemed like nowhere, firing weapons that somehow bypassed his ship's remaining defenses. "Emergency protocols," he shouted. "Call for reinforcements." But for the first time in Council history, their quantum communication network had gone silent. No help would be coming, at least not in time. In the Denver Command Center, the president watched the battle unfold with a mixture of hope and sorrow for the lives already lost. "It's working," said General Rivera, almost in disbelief. They really didn't understand what they were facing. "No," the president replied quietly. "They thought they were facing primitive animals. Instead, they found humans who would fight for their home with everything they had." Outside, Council ships began falling from the sky. The Council flagship drifted powerless in Earth orbit, its once impressive weapons systems dark and silent. Inside, Captain Eric Johnson led a boarding team through corridors designed for beings very different from humans. They moved carefully, weapons ready, but encountered little resistance. Most of the crew had surrendered once their systems failed. "Main control room should be ahead," said Linda Powell, following the ship schematic they'd pieced together from captured data. "Life signs indicate approximately 12 beings inside." Eric nodded to his team. "Remember, we want prisoners, especially command staff. The more intelligence we gather, the better our position." They breached the control room swiftly. High Counselor Zirax and his senior commanders looked up in shock as humans entered their sanctum. For beings accustomed to giving orders from positions of absolute power, the reversal was stunning. "This is impossible," Zirax stammered, his translation device barely functioning on emergency power. "You are a primitive species. You cannot have defeated our forces." Eric smiled tightly. "You made a serious mistake, Counselor. You judged us by your standards, not understanding what humans are capable of when fighting for our survival." While the Council leadership was being secured, similar scenes played out across the solar system. On Mars, Council peacekeepers found themselves surrounded by colonists they had thought safely contained. In the asteroid belt, mining operations were seized by Earth forces that had been hiding in plain sight, disguised as debris. The quantum disruption technology created by Alan Park had spread beyond Earth's solar system, following the pathways of the Council's own communication network. On distant worlds under Council control, communication and control systems suddenly failed. In Denver's command center, reports of unexpected developments began to arrive. Admiral Wilson called a communications officer. "We're receiving transmissions from multiple non-Council species. They're asking if the rumors are true. They want to know if Earth really defeated Council forces." Karen looked surprised. "Put them through." The main screen filled with an alien face, not Council, but something new. The being spoke through what seemed to be a hastily adapted translation device. "I am Sandar of the Pellerin Confederation. For 3 centuries, our people have lived under Council domination. Is it true you have broken their control systems?" The president stepped forward. "We have defended our world against their aggression, yes. Their main fleet in our system has been neutralized." The alien's expression was unreadable to human eyes, but its voice conveyed emotion. "Then you have done what none thought possible. The Council's control depends on their quantum network, which appears to be failing throughout this sector of the galaxy." More communications arrived. From species with names humans struggled to pronounce, beings who had lived under Council rule for generations. All shared the same message. The unexpected human resistance had created an opportunity that many had waited centuries to seize. General Maria Bennett, Earth's newly appointed diplomatic commander, recognized the potential immediately. "Mr. President, we should form a coalition. These species have knowledge of Council territory and technology we lack. Together, we could ensure the Council never threatens Earth again." The president nodded thoughtfully. "Open diplomatic channels. Tell them Earth is willing to ally with any species that respects our sovereignty." 3 days later, as Council ships were still being secured throughout the solar system, Maria Bennett stood before captured High Counselor Zirax and representatives from 7 formerly subjugated species. The contrast was stark. The once mighty Counselor now sat restrained, while beings who had been considered little more than resources by the Council spoke as equals. The terms of surrender are non-negotiable, Maria stated firmly. Council forces will withdraw from all Earth territories immediately. Your remaining ships will be escorted to designated containment areas. You cannot expect the entire Council to surrender to primitives, Zirax protested, though his arrogance had dimmed considerably. Our civilization spans thousands of worlds. Your civilization was built on the subjugation of others, replied Xandar of the Pelorins. And those others are now rising up, using the opportunity Earth has provided. Maria nodded. Council space is already in chaos. Your control systems are failing everywhere. You can accept our terms, or you can return to what's left of your empire and try to hold it together. Your choice. 1 year after Earth's stunning victory over the Galactic Council, the former council chamber on the neutral world of Centauri Prime buzzed with activity. Where once only council representatives had been permitted to speak, now delegates from over 30 species gathered in what had been renamed the Galactic Coalition. At the center of the chamber stood a new circular table, symbolizing equality among member species. General Maria Bennett, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, took her place alongside representatives from worlds most humans had never heard of before the war. The rebuilding efforts on Talax BI are proceeding ahead of schedule, reported Xandar of the Pelorins. With the reparation resources provided by former council worlds, their atmosphere is showing signs of recovery after centuries of council mining operations. Maria nodded. Earth will continue to provide technical assistance. Our environmental recovery specialists have developed new methods that might help accelerate the process. The meeting continued with reports from across the galaxy. The fall of the Council had created both opportunities and challenges. Some former Council worlds had joined the Coalition willingly, while others resisted the new order. A few still fought, using what remained of their military might to carve out territories they could control. After the formal session, Maria walked through the gardens outside the chamber with Krell, a representative of the Axoni, a species that had been among the first to ally with Earth after the Council's defeat. Your people continue to surprise us, Krell said, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light of the setting sun. When the Council first encountered humans, they saw only primitive violence. They failed to see the creativity, the adaptability that makes Earth unique. Maria smiled. We had good teachers. Fear is a powerful motivator. Not just fear, Krell countered. Hope as well. You fought not only to survive, but to build something better. Back on Earth, the scars of the invasion were still visible but healing. Cities damaged in the initial attack were being rebuilt with new technologies. Some Earth-developed, others adapted from knowledge shared by coalition partners. Council mining operations in the outer solar system had been converted to legitimate resource gathering, now benefiting Earth rather than exploiting it. In Washington, D.C., President Foster, who had taken office after his predecessor completed his term, met with the Galactic Defense Committee. The room looked much like it had during the crisis, but the faces showed less strain, more confidence. The outer defense grid is now fully operational, reported Admiral Watson. Between our own systems and the technology shared by our allies, Earth is now one of the most protected planets in the galaxy. And our fleet? The President asked. 30 major vessels complete, another 20 under construction, all incorporating both human innovation and compatible allied technology. No single species, including those from the former Council, could challenge us directly now. The President nodded, but his expression remained serious. Our goal isn't to become the new Council. We fought for freedom, not to become new oppressors. Of course, Mr. President, Admiral Watson agreed. But as Earth history has shown, peace is best maintained from a position of strength. On the former Council homeworld, now under Coalition oversight, High Councilor Zirax and other senior Council leaders stood trial for crimes against multiple species. The proceedings were broadcast across the galaxy, not as revenge, but as a statement that no civilization, no matter how powerful, was above justice. Earth historian Greg Simmons documented the events, interviewing witnesses from dozens of worlds. His most revealing interview came from a junior council analyst who had been part of the team that first assessed humanity. "We made a fundamental error," the analyst explained. "We looked at human history and saw only conflict. We measured your technology and found it wanting. What we failed to understand was that humanity's greatest strength isn't your weapons or your science. It's your response to threats. You unite, you adapt, you overcome." The council had never encountered a species that grew stronger under pressure instead of breaking. Greg included this quote in his widely distributed work, The Council's Folly: How Underestimating Humanity Changed the Galaxy. As night fell on Centauri Prime, Maria Bennett stood at the window of her quarters, looking at the stars. So many of them now held friendly worlds, allies rather than threats. Earth's place in the galaxy had been secured not just through force of arms, but through the unexpected ability to build connections where the Council had created only subjugation.